The Voiceover with your host, Dee Foster III, where we discuss relevant topics that affect the culture with bold, independent commentary. Get ready to be inspired, enlightened, and encouraged.
Welcome to the Voiceover Now podcast. I know y'all been waiting. You ain't got to admit it. I'm your host, Dee Foster III, CEO of Wake Up Global Networks. And do we have a show for you today? Listen, before we get started, I want you to share this. I want you to like it. I want you to follow it. I want you to hit somebody up and tell them that one of the dopest, livest podcasts around is streaming live, the Voiceover Now podcast. Now, before we get started with our content today, you don't want to miss our content today because it's got something to do with the favorite place you love to eat, or you used to like to eat, or you may not eat again. But anyway, I want to remind you that we got a new download every Wednesday. That's right. We call it the Voiceover Today audio podcast. On last week, I talked about check it out. It's right here on WPB Media Networks.com. Check it out. I talked about will Black media survive or will it shrink? Next week, we're going to be talking about Kendrick, Jay, all of that energy behind what's going on. I'm going to dissect it for you. That's the Voiceover Today audio podcast every Wednesday live, 12 noon. Straight, no chaser, like we do it, like we like it. I want to say, like our content, share it, go to our website, go to our social media page. Wake Up Global Media is Instagram, WGNINC is X, and Wake Up Global Networks is on Facebook, or you can go to the Voiceover Podcast. The Voiceover Podcast. Follow us, like us, share, whatever you do. You know this is the livest. You know we bring in the heat. We bring in the proof up in the booth. Shout out on this Mother's Day weekend to all the mothers. Where will we be without mothers? The mother of this network, we honor and salute April J. WPB Media Networks.com, Pastor Mabel Hall, all of her family, all of your family. I want to say shout out and happy Mother's Day to you. Now, we're going to begin a series. I know I'm not going to finish today. I know, you know me. You know me. I got to do a deep dive. I'm going to begin a series of discussions, the current and future state of leadership in America, especially Black organizations. Wow. Yeah. So again, did I tell you to like, share, follow, push the algorithms of this network, WPB Media Networks, so that you can get more creative content like this. You can also follow us on Wake Up Global TV on our YouTube channel, Wake Up Global TV. I'm so excited, y'all. I'm so excited. Come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in. So I want to begin this discussion by discussing a recent issue that was reported that it may seem irrelevant to you when I first start, but it's a segue to a bigger topic regarding leadership, and especially those who lead our Black organizations. I was in the gym the other day, but several weeks ago, I was in the gym doing my regular routine, listening to the Morning Hustle. How many of y'all? Shout out to L'Oreal. Shout out to the Morning Hustle. The other guy, I can't figure out how to say his name, but Cal Santana. Well, you know what I mean. So I was listening to them when L'Oreal mentioned a story that she had coming up, and it caught my attention. She named the story, and I said, I got to hear this story. When L'Oreal came back, the headline of the story is, watch this, Red Lobster. Red Lobster files for bankruptcy protection. Now, when she mentioned that, I thought to myself, I gotta hear this story. You may wonder what's so intriguing to me about being glued to a story about a bankruptcy of a restaurant that many of us, let's admit, especially over the last couple of years, experienced long waits. Yes, yes, yes. No, okay. You can put it in the chat. Yes, I'm talking about for me. Poor customer service. Yeah, they had them scattered all over the place. Sometimes it wasn't their fault, but still, nonetheless, poor customer service. Not always the cleanest place. I don't know what it was about Red Lobster. Just stuff on the floor, under the tables. I hate it. Clean my table and clean my floor. How many of y'all put in chat? That's me. That's me. I don't want to eat under or clean the seats. And a lot of times when you went into Red Lobster, in my experience, that didn't happen. You had food in the seat, food on the floor. Ugh, bad experience. And the only great part was the yummy cheese biscuits. Yes, the yummy, yummy, yummy cheese biscuits, if they were hot. Well, to answer your question, as an observer of the times, this is why I'm interested in the story, because most people, Red Lobster closing down, filing for bankruptcy, may close down, may not. But as a person spiritually, son of Issachar, interested in the times, and I'm always interested in the dynamics of the calls of the dynasties that fall from grace. Not just that they fell, but I'm always interested in knowing why they fall. Why? Because we can learn a lesson from what to do when we watch people. And a lot of times we learn the lesson of what not to do. And in the case of Red Lobster, and you said D. Foster 3, I thought you were talking about leadership. I am. But y'all know how, if you've been following me for any length of time, you know I build my case, lay my premise, and then I go in for the slam dunk. Like this, share this, follow this. And so after the commercial, they come back, they run 1,000 commercials. You know that. You know that. They run 1,000. That's why I love online streaming music, right? But after 1,000 commercials, L'Oreal came back to break the story. You know L'Oreal in her own famous, Red Lobster filed for bankruptcy protection. Yeah, that's L'Oreal. Shout out to L'Oreal. The life of the morning hustle, in my opinion. Now, granted, in the morning hustles kind of ebb and flow and fashions, callers called in. She said, what do y'all think about that? Call in, give us your opinion. And in the fashion of the morning hustle crew, most callers called in reminiscing about going back to their first dates. I had my first date at Red Lobster. They can't close down. Other callers, their proms. That's where we went to our prom, and it was dirty. I agree. Matter of fact, we left. I tell you to share this, but I tell you to like this. Graduations, all of the reminiscing stories at the once dynasty of Red Lobster. Biscuits, cheese biscuits. And most people had come to the conclusion to say, what a shame that they are closing. Now, after hearing all this, the story in my lightning fast mind, I'm thinking, although what they did, which everybody was highlighting, it was the endless scrimps that caused them to go bankrupt. Remember the endless shrimp at Red Lobster? So everybody was saying, they shouldn't have gave that endless shrimp. They shouldn't have gave that endless shrimp. And I'll get to that in a minute. But although most people were saying, and they were highlighting, that it was the endless shrimp that caused them to fail, in my lightning quite fast mind, I knew it had to be more. A dynasty all over the United States and even other parts of the world could not fold over just endless shrimp. No more endless shrimp. Now, although the endless shrimp might not have been the best idea, I said, come on, D. Foster, it's got to be more than the endless shrimp. So once I got home, I decided to do my own investigation. That's why on this podcast, I don't do a lot of redactatory content or responding to, I dig deep for you. I dig deep for you. I do my own homework. So when I get on here, I can speak boldly because I know it for myself, not just what another podcaster said and then just mimic. No, you get the real deal here on, that's what's called the Voice Over Now podcast. So I went home and I did some investigation. I said, now, D. Foster 3, you wasn't born yesterday. You've managed churches and been administrators. Endless shrimp cannot be the reason that Red Lobster is filing for bankruptcy. And guess what? When I started to get in it for myself, it was a lot more than the endless shrimp promotion. According to the information, and this is where I make my point for the title, the current and future state of leadership in America, especially leading Black organizations. So according to some of the information that I gained from the Business Insider, that's my source. I love to quote a source. Okay, quote your source. From the Business Insider, this, along with the endless shrimp promotion, sounded more true to me. Yes, maybe the endless shrimp wasn't a good idea. You know, I mean, when you eat at all you can eat, they prepare for that. The food is, they buy in bulk. But at Red Lobster, endless shrimp with Black people, you destined. We love some shrimps. Shrimp, and you put a little fried rice in there. Oh, you closing down. You closing down. But anyway, so it was not just the endless shrimp, as most people thought, and they started to mimic. Number one, according to the Business Insider, increasing labor cost. Number one, expensive leases on restaurants. Numeral two, waning customer interest. I'm in that number. Waning customer interest. Number three, and then number four, sold to private equity firm. That's never really good. That's always a telltale sign that something is going down. But bingo, number five. Bingo, number five. The granddaddy of them all. The Business Insiders say among those four things, bingo, this would hit me, bingo. This is why I'm doing this story, bingo. Plagued with constant leadership turnover. You put that with endless shrimp and waning customer interest and high labor costs and expensive real estate leases, done, gone, Diddy done. Oh, not P. Diddy, but I'm gonna talk about that. Diddy done. You put all of that together, and I agree with Jonathan Mays, editor-in-chief of Restaurant Business Magazine. He says that if anything, and I quote, the endless shrimp promotion was a symbol of desperation or poor management or both. Exactly. Who would decide to give to hundreds and thousands of people, say all the shrimp you can eat? What else do you want? Appetizer? No, just give me a Long Island and some shrimp. That's enough. And me and my family, we can sit there on endless shrimp. Let me quote again. And I quote Jonathan Mays, editor-in-chief of the Restaurant Business Magazine, that if anything, that the endless shrimp promotion was a symbol of desperation and of poor management and of both. Didn't the board of Red Lobster read Dr. John Maxwell's book about leadership, where he states that leadership is the lead. Leadership is the lead to any organization, and I end quote. What does that mean, D. Foster 3? And this is where I turn the corner. Come here. Did you like this? Share this. Did you follow? What does that mean? That no organization can rise any higher than its leaders' competence. Woo, that means a whole lot of people should be without a job, especially in city government. But that's, let me say that again. Dr. John Maxwell, and I quote, says that the leadership is the lead to any organization, end quote. What does that mean? No organization can rise any higher than its leaders' competence. Red Lobster could not continue to grow based on the obvious incompetence of its leadership. Now, although Red Lobster will probably remain open, because I know bankruptcy means simply reorganization, etc., etc., etc. So I'm aware of that. But here's the question. Here's the question for Black organizations. Here's the question for businesses, banks that are closing, churches. Here's the question. Will it ever regain its zenith? Red Lobster. Okay, you filed bankruptcy, high labor costs, high real estate costs, private equity firm, waning customer interest, me included, poor leadership. So you reorganize. But here's the question. Will it ever regain its zenith, or have it lost its momentum and people have lost their interest because predominantly, y'all, of bad, incompetent leadership? It will probably regain, it probably will never, in my opinion, it may regain its zenith. The place to go for quick hors d'oeuvres, friendly, affordable service remains to be seen in Red Lobster. Now, the reason that I wanted to use the Red Lobster example, other than I thought it was an interesting story, I think it's an interesting story. The reason I want to use Red Lobster as an opening topic, because it brings us to a larger topic, which is just because you open don't mean you're going to get the business. Yeah, just because you open don't mean you're going to get the business. So just because they reorganize, because reputation is very powerful. Reputation goes a long way. The best marketing is not television, radio, etc. They help, but one person to another person. You know, I went over to Red Lobster and the place was dirty and the waiter was nasty and it took our food a long time to come and it was cold. And when I told them it was cold and they wanted to take it back, I told them to take it back. They got an attitude. Thanks for telling me that. I was going to take my family there for Mother's Day. I think we'll go to Olive Garden. I think we'll go to Chesapeake Bay Seafood House. See, word of mouth is very powerful when it comes to marketing. So will it ever regain its zenith? This statement by Darren Tossio, CEO and founder of Food Services, to me, it pretty much sums up most original leadership. What do you mean original? Started it. Talking about present day, founded it. Not all, most. This statement I'm about to read by Darren Tossio, CEO and founder of Food Services, sums up most original leadership. Watch what he says, and I quote. He's talking about Red Lobster, but I apply it to most leadership in this country. What's truly happened with Red Lobster is the customer base has changed, and Red Lobster haven't. Ooh, I could shout. If he had an altar, I would probably throw some money there. I'd probably throw, remember those days? You throw. Let me read that again, and I quote. CEO and founder of Food Services pretty much sums up and categorizes to me the condition of most leadership in America, especially leading Black organizations, churches included. Let me read this and reply about Red Lobster. What's truly happened with Red Lobster is the customer base has changed and Red Lobster haven't. What's truly happened with the public school systems is students have changed, but the system haven't. What's truly happened to the church is that people's needs are different. And the church has not changed. And I could go on and on, ad infinitum, ad infinitum. He goes on to say, Red Lobster isn't losing to a competitor in their space. This is in your face. But they are losing to competitors outside of their space. See, the fact of the matter is no organization shifts on its own. The shifts occur through cutting edge, visionary, team player leadership. Let me say this. Let me say that again because I want to highlight that. No organization shifts on its own. Endless Shrimp didn't decide it was going to be available to every customer that wanted it endlessly. The shrimp had no vote in that. It was the leadership who decided that. So here it is, the statement that I want to make, a very profound statement from D. Foster 3. And I quote, no organization shifts on its own. The shifts occur through cutting edge, visionary, team player leadership. Watch this. Here's the next part. Who must have the freedom and support to make the shifts. Must have the freedom and support to make the shifts. Not a rubber stamp. And this is where I go back to original leadership. Because we see the digression of an organization and we see the need as leadership. But when not everybody, but when prior leadership still wants to be the focal point, still wants to be the voice, but the current leadership is just a puppet of the original leadership, there can be no shifts. You know, I like to say this. If you still want it, keep it. Did you share this? Did you like it? Did you follow it? If you still want it, that's leadership. Keep it. I think it's very unfair and it's very unproductive to say, oh, we're going to shift leaders. And I'm going to talk about that in detail next week because there was a real issue that occurred nationally. We're going to switch leaders, but you bring the leader in and a leader is handcuffed because the old leader still by right, by naturality, has the influence, and the new leader is not permitted to bring their new team in. So you got a new leader with an old team. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to Red Lobster it. You're going to Red Lobster it. And this seems to me, this is my opinion, that's why it's the Voice Over Now podcast, to be the issue with most Black organizations over 30 to 50 years old and beyond. Now, all right. This next statement by restaurant analyst John Gordon firms up my case that it was the leadership, not the endless shrimp. Shrimp can't bankrupt. Shrimp don't make decisions. It was the leadership. This statement sums up my case that it was a leadership issue for Red Lobster and not the endless shrimp promotion that caused Red Lobster to fall from grace. Watch what analyst John Gordon says, restaurant analyst. And I quote, Red Lobster has been on the decline for 20 years. Duh. They were unprepared to hold a casual dining restaurant. They were unprepared to hold a casual dining restaurant. Now, that scenario always suggests that current leadership is either incompetent or clearly, with the changing of times and demands, have taken the organization as far as they can take it. See, sometimes because of the change of demands and the changing of times, you got to admit when you have taken an organization, got to get out of ego, get out of self, and admit and stop blaming the people. Oh, the people won't do this. And let me speak the church. The people won't come. The people won't sing. The people. No. Because great leadership can motivate people, right? But sometimes it's not even the person. It's that you have reached your maximum potential to take that organization to the next level. And you have to be a leader to acknowledge that and gracefully hand over the reins of leadership while allowing the next level leader to have the freedom to lead without you butting in. And freedom to make changes without you butting in. Now, I'm not talking about anybody, so get that straight. I'm not talking about anybody. I'm doing a principle, because I know people question, what are you talking about? Who I'm talking about, I'll mention on next week because it hit the national scale. And I'm going to dissect that. But right now, I'm talking the issue. I'm talking scenario of why leadership is so important. So sometimes as a leader, and I've done it, and there's no shame to that, to say, you know what this organization needs, I'm not sure I possess it. I'll be a sideline, invisible support. If the new leadership needs some wisdom or advice, I'm there. I won't be sitting there every time something gathers and I'm up front. Yeah, we see that, especially in church stuff. These people, y'all good. Y'all let people hand you stuff and keep letting them butt in. If you want it, keep it. That's my saying. No pun intended. If you want it, keep it. Don't use me. Now, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking for, don't use people. Don't use me to do the work. And you still sitting up there making the power play. I told you this is the Voice Over Net podcast. Straight, no chaser whatsoever. It's Friday. Come on the rocks. Get it straight. I don't have a gray area. And we see that. So you see people, new leadership, fresh new leadership, like what I'm talking about next week. They come in, they're excited. And before they can even get started, they leave. They stay a year, 6 months. There's a reason for that. And it's not always in the person being unstable. We like to put it on that. But the reality is, I'll go into that next week. Sometimes it's deeper than that. So when you are a mature, skilled leader, everyone should know when we've taken something, whether you founded it or not, to as far as we can take it. Now, how do I know when I've taken it as far as I can take it? Because what I built begins to regress. It's like pushing a snowball to the top of the hill. And then it begins to roll down, right? And so now I need somebody to come with fresh vision, fresh team. Every leader has a right to bring their team. No president inherits a cabinet, right? Fresh team. So new leadership comes and scoops up that snowball. And with new vision, with cutting edge ideas, with a supportive team, pushes it back up and takes it even higher than it previously was. And that happens. But the key is that the old order gracefully relinquishes the baton. And that's why most, and I'm going to go focused here, Black organizations, largely in this country, are ineffective. They may have been effective in the 50s and in the 60s and in the 70s, maybe, but they're ineffective. And if you look, the same people are leading them the same way they were led. And if you notice, they become wah, wah. In my opinion, NAACP, wah, I don't want to start naming names. Okay, take that. That may work for some people. But you know it ain't cutting edge. You know it ain't cutting edge. So you got to know when you've taken the organization as far as you can take it. And for the leader to remain at the helm from that point where you know you can't take it, but you want the power, you want the money, you want the notoriety, you want to be in the forefront, but you know you can't take this. You know, Jesse, you don't have no more ideas. You know. Ooh, did I tell you to like this? Did I tell you to share this? Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. So for a leader to remain at the helm from that point on, it spells decline. And more devastatedly, it spells legacy eradicated. So we don't remember you for what you did. We remember you. See, people don't remember you what you did. They remember you how you went out. That's why I always say Sugar Ray should have known when to stop. He would have still been as popular as Muhammad Ali is, even in his grave. But Sugar Ray, just an example, didn't know when to opt out. Michael Jordan knew when to opt out. You understand what I'm saying? And people that know when to opt out are remembered for their legacy. People who don't know how to opt out, all we remember is that you once had a thriving dynasty, and now you have a dinosaur. I don't ever want to be like that. People call me unstable. I'm not unstable. I know when to hold it, and I know when to fold it, and I know when to let it go. It won't die under my watch. I prefer to pass the mantle, but I'm not over. You've not seen the end of D Foster 3. So I'm closing. Share this, like it. I know those of you that are looking at the replay, what's going on. Thanks for joining in. I'm D Foster 3. Check out my Wednesday, the voiceover today, audio commentary. It's going to be very interesting right here on WPBMediaNetworks.com. So a declining organization because of incompetent or maxed out leadership and not allowing new leaders to emerge with their new leadership models. You don't bring somebody in so they can keep doing what you're doing, because if they keep doing what you're doing, they're going to keep getting what you were getting. You bring them in for a new leadership model, right? I hope. And it may not always be in your family. Sometimes it will be. That's a whole nother topic. Sometimes it won't be. Sometimes you just, you know, certain people just realize they don't have it. So I'm not going to be egotistical. I wish they had it so it can stand firm. But I'm not going to sacrifice what I gave my blood, sweat, and tears for to die in the hands of somebody that I notice incompetent, instead of entrusting it in the hands of somebody who may not be a blood relative, but I'm going to put it in their hands because they have the cutting edge, visionary. They're going to bring a sharp team. Their work speaks for themselves. And I'm a support behind the scenes. Behind the scenes. So when you get that, and you don't allow new leadership to integrate new leadership models, failure to do so will cause organizational collapse. Red Lobster, organizational collapse. Black institutions, organizational collapses. I got part 2 coming up next week. I've been your host, D Foster 3. Make sure you check us out every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. right here on WPB Network. It's going on right here on WPB Networks. A voice of hope, connection, and then our voice of healing, call. And then on Wednesday, we putting it out there, straight, no chaser. See, let me tell you what the Voice Over Net. Voice Over Net is the kind of podcast that you need to sit back and listen or view with something like your favorite drink, coffee, tea, wine, long, whatever you drink, because we bring it long, strong, and we bring it hard. and you need something to compliment. You know how to reach us. Go to our social media pages. Till next week, I'm your host. No. Until Sunday morning at 7 for our Voice of Hope Connection. I'm your host, D. Foster 3, reminding you that you have a voice. Keep using it.
Thank you for being a part of The Voiceover. Please follow us on all of our social media platforms to stay connected to our upcoming shows and guests. Instagram at The Voiceover Radio. Twitter at DPropheticI. That's the letter D, prophetic, EYE. If this show has enriched you in any way, please share The Voiceover among your circle. Until next time, keep allowing your voice to be heard.